I'm going to do something. I should have done this sooner. We used to have the altar over here. We kind of set all the things over here. Thank you for your patience here. And let's see here. Keep coming. Well, that's the big one, is remembering our timer. Oh. So where are we right now? I should, okay, 22. Okay. Ta-da. Usually I forget to trigger it on. Well, good morning. Thanks for being here. And yeah, I want you just to breathe for a moment. And just exhale and allow yourself to relax into this moment. And just take in for a moment too your surroundings. Let yourself feel the beauty. Feel the words of those songs, because they're about us. They're about you. Audrey shared with me last week that she realized what men want. And evidently there's a pub between here and our house. And there was a sign out there and it said beer, pinball, football, and food trucks. And I thought, yeah, I think probably some women like that also, or it could just be the guys that are there that, I'm not sure. But as we come in to the sanctuary of this church, it's a symbol of coming into ourselves. And that coming into ourselves is about opening to the truth of who we are. But it's not in judgment of the pub between here and our house. As we come into the peace that's within us, we allow ourselves to start to see through new eyes, because it's a journey to the truth of who we are, a journey from the appearance of being just a body, just a physical world, into the truth of our oneness, that we are spiritual beings. And so the beauty in the sanctuary and the beauty of this time of year is really, the power in it is if we can gently open ourselves, that it's a symbol. They are symbols of who you are as you embark on that journey. One of the powers of the Advent for me is that it is talking about the unfolding of who we are, those qualities that we look at the time of Advent. Those are qualities that start to rise or to expand as we open ourselves to that journey into our spirituality. And so the lights and the beautiful music, the tree, the celebrations, be aware of how they touch you. Because again, it's about the inner you. It's about an expansion of you, not maybe necessarily the you that you know in this moment. One of the challenges is that this truth is very difficult to believe. In fact, we may not even believe it, or at least we think we don't, because we can't see it. We're constantly having to deal with making changes within our mind as to who we really are and who we want to be. How can there be a loving God in the world the way it is? I mean, that goes off in all of us. And so there's that conflict. How can this be true? How can Christmas be true with what I'm seeing around me, with the suffering, with the loss, with the fear? And I love Christmas Eve, our Christmas Eve celebration. And I invite all of you to be a part of that if you like, just because of for me, for whatever reason, it's the lights, the candles, but also it's the beauty of the story. Because what does it do? It opens our heart, and it opens something deeper within us that we're not even aware of. But it loses its power when it just becomes a beautiful story, when it's just a ritual that we get through. Because there's a lot of demands with this time of year also. And so sometimes it's so easy to just think it's something about the outer world, something to get through, suffer through, whatever, a lot of joy, and then put things away. But the celebration is not about something to put away. It's about something to nurture every moment of our life, every day of our life. That's the reason we're here. The Advent starts with faith, because faith is a component of opening ourselves to something that we can't see. And I would share with you that all of you have faith. All of you have tremendous faith. But it's something that our awareness needs to be nurtured to. A lot of times it's the fear that grabs our attention. And so in that moment, we think we have no faith. But none of you would be here in this moment if there wasn't faith in you, if there wasn't some part of you that was pulling you, whether conscious or unconscious, to be in an environment like this, with beliefs that are sometimes can be fairly uncomfortable for a lot of people. And yet you're here. And the ideas are not comfortable, because again, it's a journey from the seen, what we think we see, to what appears to be unseen. It's a journey that feels very, very risky. It's a journey that can feel very, very fearful. So Christmas can be about that spiritual journey to a consciousness of oneness. Later, I'll read about what possible definitions of what is the Christ. Because you remember, it's the child that has that consciousness of Christ, that oneness in God, that awareness that it is a child of God. But in order to stay in that consciousness, it required a certain discipline, a certain mindfulness in its moment-to-moment reality as it experienced this world. I'm going to read a few things from different mystics. Jesus came, like all teachers, all mystics, to tell us about who we are. Because love, which holds all of us together in that oneness of God, that love is never separate from you and I. That's the thing, that's the illusion that we're here to release. And to replace with the truth that we've never been separate from that oneness. But there are challenges. We have other belief systems that we have to work with. that we have to release over time. Let's see here. Something I learned from my wife's little stickers, so I can know where versus toilet paper is what I tend to use. So I'm getting a little classier and slowly. So I'm going to read from a mystic. Everyone is the Lord. Everyone is God. As long as we're in the flesh, we're prisoners of the flesh. When we get released from the flesh and know our reality, the soul shines and becomes pure. We become the Father. We become the Lord. Potentially, everyone is the Lord. And so we have to merge back into that ocean. Nobody would like to retain individuality there. There's a part of us that is terrified of that journey. But once we start to open and merge into that greater truth of who we are, no one wants to come back to this. Remember the movie? Did any of you see the kind of the cartoon movie Disney did on Aladdin? And of course, there was the rubbing of the lantern. And of course, the story actually comes from Sufi teachings, from Muslim esoteric teachings. And because you couldn't talk about what we talk about in public for much of history, a lot of times these things were sort of hidden or spoke of in symbols so that they could get away with talking about it and not be persecuted. So that lamp that got rubbed, and all of a sudden the genie comes out. Well, that genie is your spiritual self. That rubbing of the lamp is one of the techniques for freeing ourselves from the ego, that journey. And it's really rubbing this eye center in the head, which allows us to slowly and slowly release our connection to just the physical and open to the spiritual, the oneness of who we are. And when that genie came out of that bottle, out of that lantern, you remember, I'm trying to remember the actor, that comedian's name who played the genie by his voice. There we go. Well, you remember how static that genie was? All of a sudden, he was huge. He was no longer an eeny weeny little genie. He was big. Well, that's the truth about us. That's why the mystics come. That's why the teachers come. We cling to being a little eeny weeny genie in a bottle of a body. And it's so precious to us that I'll kill you when you threaten it. I think it's that important to protect. And yet, once that genie starts coming out of that bottle, all of a sudden, you start to see differently. It's not that the world changes, but you see the world differently. All of a sudden, you realize that you and that world are one. That you and that world are love. And all of a sudden, you see, it's yourself you're seeing. Because you remember, there's only one. And again, this is a journey into the unknown. So the intellect is not going to be able to understand it. It requires letting go of the little teeny weeny genie and the bottle of the body, and opening ourselves. And the oneness of who we are in all its forms, whether we call it the Holy Spirit, whether it comes in the form of a Jesus, whether it comes in the form of a Buddha or a Kabir, it's there to help us and to remind us No, there's more. The peace and the love that we are journeying towards. Last week, Mark sang a song from the Rose, and I have no idea the line. I'm going to totally slaughter it. But love is an endless aching heart. Is that somewhat close? Need? Okay. Because you're love. And the wholeness of love, that expansion of that genie of who you are, is expanding into an infinite love. And right now we cling to a little teeny love. And what we're being invited to is to open to the infinite love. Because you and I combine, look how much more love that is in this room. But what we do is we're on a journey towards love, but first we start to grab each other for that love. And that works out really great, doesn't it? Come on now, that was a joke too. Janine is always having to coach us. So from that perspective, that everyone is Lord, that also means that everyone is love, because God and love are one. And what our journey is inviting us into, this journey into the Christ, is a journey into making a change, making a new decision. And we don't know how, but we can ask for help. The help is there in all those forms of that oneness. You can ask to be able to see the truth in that person in front of you, that person that you live with, that person that just cut you off at the intersection, whatever it happens to be, the person that marches into a village on the other side of the planet and destroys all the inhabitants. There's only one. And so we can ask, how do I see this? Through the truth that there's only God, that we are God, and that we are one in that love of God. How do I start to see you through those eyes? That's where the mindfulness comes in. We don't know how. I don't know how. Man, oh man, when my sense of self, that little eeny weeny part, feels threatened, it's like, oh, it feels impossible to make a different choice. It takes a while. Sometimes it can take years, sometimes lifetimes. Let's hope not. We're here to love and support each other, nurture each other in this journey of making new choices. Let me read one Sufi mystic that we've used before. Evie is used quotes from this mystic who lived in the 1200s and in Persia by the name of Rumi, or Maulana Rum. And Rumi was saying, your task is not to seek for love. The love is already there. It's who you are. It's who everyone is. But our task is to seek and find all the barriers within myself that I have built against love. My judgments of you when you don't fit what I think you should be doing, or how you should look, or how you should act, how you should treat me, really nice, you know. Then all of a sudden I experience my barriers to love. We have that light of who we are, and it's one light. And yet in this symbol of life and light, there's a lot of dark spaces, the darkness of the world. But that darkness is not true. There's only one. And that's what we're celebrating. We're celebrating the model of that child into adulthood and what he was modeling, that he, in his teachings, which we don't tend to get much because he didn't write about what he said. But the other mystics all say the same thing because they come from the same oneness. And it's that there's only one, there's only God. And as we open to that journey, our vision slowly and slowly starts to change, not through your ego, but through the releasing of that little eeny, teeny, weeny self in that body. One of the fears is that spirituality means that we have to be renunciants. I wrote down on my little note somewhere to grab that. For me, it was the word sadhu, that ascetics, that real extreme. That's not the journey. It can be, but it's not the necessary journey. We're not here to change the world. We're here only to change ourselves, to change my mind. I have two choices in my mind. There's really two minds. One mind is the ego mind, which thinks that you and I are separate. And that mind is split in all of us. So we all are seeing. That's what the two eyes represent, seeing more than one, seeing in twos. But as we become still and we start to know who we are, the eye moves from the double to the single. Let thy eye be single. And then we start to see the singleness of who we are. But you can't do it through reading books. You can't do it through your own effort. Your intent is important. Your mindfulness is important. But we need to open and allow love to be our guide. And it's here. You're never separate from it. It's here in so many, many infinite forms. Remember, we used the symbol of the drop and the ocean in different ways. We've used the Buddhists had where they're looking at the wave and the ocean and how different symbols for that. Well, the drop, let me read about that drop just for a second here. Again, this is from a mystic writing about it. And someone was wondering about, well, is there a difference between the soul and God? I mean, we got it up on the wall, so that's all there is. I know it, right? And so here's what the mystic said. Ultimately, there will be no difference between you and God in terms of you and who you are. But, and this is a big but, there's a great difference between the drop and the ocean. You remember, we're the drop and we lose ourselves into the ocean of oneness. But look how silly it would be if I had this little drop here, drop, say hello, and this little drop says, I'm the ocean. I'm the ocean. Well, in theory, in concept drop, but you're not really the ocean. If I accidentally drop you, what happens? No more drop. What we call death. So when the drop is in the ocean, then it is the oneness of who it is. And this is what we're celebrating at this time of the year. I just came across a thing last week where one mystic wrote that mystics, Jesus, all the teachers, are like a stream. And the stream is there for the drop to guide it to its home and the oneness of the sea. There's lots of streams. The stream can have many forms, many, many different kinds of journeys. Your journey does not look like the journey of the person next to you. We're here to support that infinite journey. That's what I love about Unity. That's what allows me to be here. I was sent here because I needed to learn how to serve, how to do the journey, not just in my own little cave. And so I was sent here 40 some years ago. I said, I was suggested, go and learn how to serve. Go how to learn how to love. Go and learn about your oneness, that you're not separate. One of the gifts of unity, besides the focus, there's only one. And it's real easy to get pulled off of that. It's real easy to get caught in the things that one can do on the journey, the powers that can be there within the self, within the various chakras, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing with unity, and Roger had mentioned it the other day when he talked, one of the, let's see here if I can, oh yeah, here it is. It's that last principle that we talk about. First of all, that unity is practical. This journey is practical. It has to be done. It can't be thought and it can't be read. And our last focus that we go through in our principles is I do and give my best by living the truth that I know. We have to experiment with this. We have to try it. We have to fail at it. The founders of Unity, what attracted people to them, they were just a couple in their own home. But the fact is they had the courage to start to experiment with some of the ideas that were coming in from the Far East in the 1800s to Europe and to the US. And in the process of experimenting and trying it out, seeing if this stuff works, they started experiencing things that were unusual to the people around them, and they were attracted to wanting to know, well, what are you doing? And that's how unity came about, because of the practicalness, because it's not about just philosophy, it's about living your truth. This is how we start to know who we are. And so, in conclusion, I'll read we don't have to be there. Just the little bit of faith that we have is all that is needed. That one little candle. But like on Christmas Eve, when all our candles are lit, it's something very, very beautiful. And even your one candle is very, very beautiful. You know that by when you look into the candle or the eyes of another person. The challenge is to realize that that beauty is in us. That's one of the reasons why it's hard to want to make this story of Christmas about us. But we're not that little eeny weeny thing in a body. That's not who you are. And so it says, we can remember this teaching of our truth more and more, that we are already one in the oneness of God. Keeping it in mind could gradually give us ever greater calm, peace, and happiness. It's a part of the journey. The peace of today is the peace that's in you. And as we let go of the shadows within ourselves, we allow ourselves to experience more and more of the light that is you and the light that is me. Thank you. Okay. I hadn't even noticed it. Thanks. So let's just take a moment to be in meditation, to be in prayer. There's many ways for prayer, and there's many ways for meditation. One idea of prayer that I'm drawn to is that idea of thinking about that in the mind of God, all is one. and releasing, the process of holding and allowing ourselves to open. To how the mind of God is holding you right now. Breathe and just come into the moment. And gently placing all the concerns, the challenges within our nation, and the threats to what we call democracy. All of this, as we relax into the oneness, we can gently place these concerns, these illusions of separation, these shadows on the light of God. We can place it into that light of oneness and ask, show me how to see this differently. Help me to open to your peace, to your love, to our joy, for we are one. Let me place the conflicts of this world, the aggressions, the suffering, help me to place this into the light of oneness, that we are only one, that we are one in the Spirit of God. We are one in the spirit of the person sitting next to us in this moment. We are one in the spirit of every being on this planet. Help me to release the shadows of judgment, of separation, of fear. I know that I'm never separate. Your love has come to this planet so many times to remind me of who we are. That no matter the appearance, there is only one. There is only love. There is only the spirit of oneness, the spirit of love. We are that Christ child. We are the potential to know only that truth, that we are the child of the oneness, that we are never separate. But as we breathe and let go, we can open and ask for help. Allow love to be our teacher. Allow the love and the light and the beauty that we celebrate to bathe us in its love. For we are that beautiful child that the shepherds watch. And that the angels sing. We are God's child, the oneness, made in its image. We are loved, not by a little love, but the infinite, all-encompassing love that is our truth. And we give thanks. Amen. So now is our time for our prayer of protection. And just stay seated for a moment. I believe the words are behind me. Okay. And let's see here. And hopefully what I have in front of me matches what's behind me. So now just feel these words for yourself. And together, the light of God surrounds us. We are the light. The love of God enfolds us. We are the love. The power of God protects us. We are the power. The presence of God watches over us. We are the presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. We are one.